welcome back to the studio, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Throwback Thursday. So, let me just get my laptop kind of situated here so I can see, make sure everything's kind of lined up and straight before we start. Looks like everything is good. So, I'll bring my lights down a little bit, because we like to have plenty of light so you can see what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so for this Throwback Thursday, I will be using the Shaded Summer bundle. Now we have the Shaded Summer Cling stamp set. Now, when this first came out, it was a standalone stamp set. It did not have any dies with it. And then I believe the first year that this came out, they then came out with the Summer Shadows dies, which was part of Celebration. Now, I don't have anything on here that shows what year it was, but this was quite a few years ago. I think after we had Celebration. Now, this doesn't usually happen, but I'm kind of remembering that these set of dies, because the stamp set, it had carried over into, I believe it would have been the annual catalog the following year. And I think, again, I'm not 100% sure. I think they actually took these dies and they also carried them over. Now, usually something that is well, I don't know if these were considered Celebration or if it was something that was kind of like a bonus type of offering that they did around that time, because they did come out with some sets of dies that coordinated with stamp sets, that could have been in a mini catalog at that time. But I'm kind of remembering that these dies had been around for a little bit, at least. Um, I think the following year when this stamp set carried over. Again, I could be wrong, but it's because it has been quite a long time. So I am going to be using this for my Throwback Thursday. So I'm calling this the Shaded Summer Bundle. Now, back at that time, Stampin' Up! Named their stamp sets and their sets of dies different names. And in the past few years now, the stamp sets and the dies have been named the same. So it's always a lot easier to try and find the coordinating dies with the stamp set because they're named the same. So we are going to do some stamping using the stamp set. And then we're also going to do a card where I had die cut some of the detail dies, and we're going to put together some flowers for our card. So with that, let me bring in the stuff for our first card. And I'll take my little sample card, kind of set it aside, and I kind of follow along as to what I'm doing. And then I do have my little document that I follow that gives me all the little measurements for everything. So make it easy peasy, right? Okay, so for my card base, this is Coastal Cabana. It measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a piece of peach pie. This measures 3.5 by 2.75. A piece of basic white, that's the same measurement, 3.5 by 2.75. I have a piece of the Regals 6x6 Designer Series paper. So this is the pattern that is from the set that just retired with our last annual catalog. So this is the Pretty Peacock colored one. This piece measures 5.5 by 2.5. And then I have a piece of Bermuda Bay. This measures 5.5 by 1/2. And then I have a scrap piece of Pool Party. I'm noticing I'm looking in my camera, and everything looks just very bright and very vibrant. So I really like that. Okay, so I'll start with folding and burnishing my cardstock. Hopefully it looks like that in the video itself when you go to watch this. I do have my laptop over here. Um, it looks good. It looks clear. So hopefully you're seeing that really bright, vibrant color as well. Okay, so then the designer series paper, I'm going to bring in my liquid glue, and this is the Tombow multi-purpose glue, or what they call the green glue that we sell in our annual catalog. I find that when I'm going to glue down a piece of designer series paper to my card base, that it's easier to use the liquid glue, especially when I have to line it up from top and bottom of my card front. So that way I have a little bit of that wiggle room. I find that if I use the seal, then a lot of times you find you got to kind of pull it up because it's not lined up, and then of course you got your creased paper and all that. So I like using the liquid glue to do this part. So this piece of designer series paper is going to go right from the top to the bottom on my card base. And then there's a little bit of glue that came out over here. So as soon as this dries, I'm going to use my adhesive remover, and I'll easily remove that excess glue from there. So that's down. And then I'm going to take my strip of Bermuda Bay. So a lot of aqua that's in this card, and then I have that pop of that peach pie cardstock on this. So then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to butt this up right up against my designer series paper. And again, this is going to go straight up and down from top to bottom on my card base. Pull that down just a tiny bit. Okay, press that down. Okay, and then I'll take my adhesive remover and I'll remove that excess glue. And I'll do the same thing over here because a little bit oozed out on the side. And there we go, all cleaned up. And then I am going to take my piece of peach pie, add some glue to the back of this. And I will place this down. Let me straighten out my card here. And I will place that about here on my card base. So I want to see a little bit of that Coastal Cabana of my card base on my right side, and then on the left side I do want to see some of that designer series paper. So I'll press that down like so. Okay, so let's put that aside. Now close up my glue. I think we are done with this. Okay, so on this piece of basic white, I am going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat. Now this is a red rubber stamp set, so you don't need like the extra foam cushion to do this, but the reason why I like to use my Pierce mat is because, especially when I'm stamping on white cardstock and I have this white grid paper behind it, it makes it a little bit easier for me to see where I'm stamping. So I'm going to bring in my Pretty Peacock ink, and we're going to bring in this larger bloom here. So pull that out. And I'll bring in my bigger block. That's not going to fit. We need the bigger one. Okay. Put that down. And put that down like so. And then we'll ink it up. Since it's a bigger image, I'm going to take my ink pad to the stamp itself. Now I'm getting some on the edge here, so I want to make sure that I don't rock my block so I don't get that excess ink on there. All right, so I'm going to stamp this right here. Yeah, and I don't really want to rock it because I know I got that excess ink on there. Okay, and then I'm going to set this aside. We're going to let that dry some. We're going to color in some of these open areas here with our Stampin' Blend. So I do want that to dry some before I do that. And then for the greeting on this one, I'm going to use thank you. And we're going to use our pretty peacock ink for this as well. And my scrap of Pool Party ink. Not Pool Party ink, but Pool Party cardstock. Looks like words are going to be hard. So then I am going to stamp that right here, like so. And we'll close up our ink pad because we're done with our stamping. And then I'm going to punch it out using, this is the double oval punch, and I'm going to use just the oval, not the scalloped oval. And place this in here. And we'll punch it out. Okay, so there is that piece. We're done with this. Okay, and then I want to bring in a piece of scrap paper just to put underneath this when I go to color it. So for this, I am going to use both my light and dark Granny Apple Green Stampin' Blend markers, my dark Peach Pie, and then my light Bermuda Bay. So I'm going to use the light Bermuda Bay and all these white areas in my flowers. I'm going to use the Bermuda Bay. The centers of my flowers are going to be the dark peach pie, and then of course the leaves will be the light and dark Granny Apple Green. Okay. And if I color over that pretty peacock, it just makes it a little bit darker. Okay, and then we have this flower here. So am I doing that? And if there's any like spots, like you can see in this one flower right here, where you kind of like see a little white spots in, because it didn't, stamp like really solid. What this will do is this will fill it in and you don't see that. Okay. And then we got this flower here. Okay, so that is our flower petals. Okay, and then for the leaves, I'm going to take my light granny apple green and I will fill these in. And then we got these three down here. Now there is a die that will cut out this whole floral image, but for this project we're not going to do that. Okay. Now, I'm not really going into a lot of detail with doing the blending, but what I like to do is when I want to I want to see that definition, you know, using the darker marker. What I do is I would color in, you know, the base using the light shade of the color, and then I'll let that dry, and then I'll come in with the dark, and then I'll add like a little scribble of the darker color on it, and then you'll see the difference between the light and the dark. Um, I find that if I do too much, so when you do the blending to really get a good transition of the light and dark colors, you want to do it when the ink is wet. And so what I want to to try to and avoid to do is having any of the ink like bleed outside of the image itself. So if you use too much ink and it's really wet, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to have your ink kind of bleed outside of your stamped image. So that's what I'm trying to avoid doing. So now that I colored these leaves, I'm going to let those dry, and then I'll come back in with the dark and I'll add like a little bit of the scribble like right in the middle of the leaves. So in the meantime, I'm going to take my dark peach pie marker and I'm going to color in the centers of these flowers. So basically my card is all in these different shades of aqua. And then I have this pop of the peach pie in the cardstock and in the centers of these flowers. Okay, so then we're going to take the dark granny apple green and I'm just going to add a little bit of scribble here like in the middle of these leaves. So there we go. Now one of the things that's really going to make this pop even more is when I add the Wink of Stella to the flowers themselves. So I'm going to do that after I attach that to my card base. So I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Dimensionals. And we'll put one in each of the corners, and then I like to put one in the center so then that way we don't have a saggy center. Okay, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to place this centered over that peach pie piece like so. And then on my greeting piece here, this is going to go right here. So because this is already popped up, I'm going to place one on this side here. and then I'll add one on the very bottom. Okay, and then this, I want to make sure that I have that kind of like, I don't want to have like those dimensionals up on this, because then it'll be uneven. So that's good. It's stuck down. Okay, so then for embellishments for this, again, I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella and I'm going to color the flowers. But then, in addition to that, we're going to add a little bit more bling. I've been using these on a lot of my Throwback Thursday videos. Well, one, I have a whole lot of these. These are the Iridescent Rhinestones Basic Jewels. What's nice about these is that they are translucent and they have that iridescent to it. So wherever you put it on, whether your designer series paper, you can see behind it. So you can see that color that comes through these things. And I always thought that was really cool. So of course, when they went to go and retire these, I purchased quite a few packs of these because I love them so much. So there's 3 different sizes in here. So I'm using one of each size. I added the larger one on the designer series paper, the medium one on my Bermuda Bay strip, and then the smallest one on the Coastal Cabana card base. All right, so let me move that out of the way. And then I will bring in my Wink of Stella, and we will add some to these flowers. And what the Wink of Stella is going to do, is going to do 2 things here. It's not only going to add some bling with the glitter onto these flowers, but it's also going to make it look a little more vibrant. It just looks more bright and vibrant, in my opinion. So I really like adding Wink of Stella over the images that I colored with my Stampin' blends. And I apologize, I see that the table's shaking. You don't want that. Okay, so I'm only going to put them on the flowers. I'm not going to put them on the leaves, but there is our first card. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see that Wink of Stella on the flower. So there is our first card. So for my second card, we'll be doing some paper piecing. I did do a lot of stuff ahead of time just to save some time so we don't have a really, really long video. So this one is definitely one that's great for those that love the pink. So for my card base, this is basic white thick. It measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have another piece of basic white. This measures 5 1/4 by 4. And ahead of time, I had used this leaf image. This is the greenery embossing folders. These are the smaller folders. These work perfectly in the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, but of course you can use these with the larger ones as well. So for this piece, I went about halfway in, so it was about 5.5 of, so like 5 of the double leaf images and then half of another one. So it's about 2 1/4 inches in. I put my cardstock in about halfway and I ran it through my machine, so I just have that one side that's embossed. And then out of some scraps here, I die cut 3 of these solid flower images. This is out of Pretty in Pink. I have a piece of strawberry slush. No, this isn't strawberry slush. This is melon mambo, and this measures 3 by 1. And then at a piece of basic white scrap, I had stamped the happy birthday. The happy birthday comes from the So Sincere stamp set. And then I die cut it using one of the rectangle stitch dies. So there is like a thinner, more narrow one that's in here. So I die cut that. And then with every new catalog, Stampin' Up! Has a designer series paper pack that comes in a 6x6 size. And these papers that you get, there's actually like 4 sheets of each of the colors that are in that collection. And so you have like a total of 4 different patterns of paper, and it's the same throughout all of the other packs and the other color collections. So this is the new in colors. There's a pack with the in colors that carried over, and then there's a pack for the brights, neutrals, subtles, and the regals. So this is the 2025 to 2027 in color designer series pack. And so one of the patterns is kind of like let me show you, because it was this piece that I cut out. So the one side has these flowers, and then the other has kind of like this splatter design on the back. And so I had die cut 3 of the detailed flowers, and that color that I used is the strawberry slush. So I die cut 3 of these, and we're going to glue these onto our 3 pretty and pink flowers. Let me set those aside. Okay, and we'll fold and burnish our card base. Okay, and then I'm going to take this piece that I had embossed half of. Now I'll use my seal for this, but whenever you're using it on a piece of cardstock or paper that you have embossed, you don't want to go really hard with this, because what you'll do is you'll tear the cardstock. So you just need like a light touch. And of course you can do this to adhere this as well using your liquid glue. So my embossed side is going to be on the left, and we'll center this on here like so. Now the one thing that I do need to do that I should have done in advance, but I didn't, but we're going to make this work. We got to do a little bit of stamping on that panel. So I am going to bring in that stamp set, and then there's this one image right here that has these little, it's not really flowers, I don't know what you want to really call it, but we want to bring that in. Let me get a block. And then I'm going to bring in my Melon Mambo ink. So this one we're using all different shades of pink for this one, where we did a lot of the aqua on the other one. So what I want to do is I want to take these and I want to place it on the side, the smooth side here. And so I'm going to glue these detail pieces on top of these more solid. But what I want to do is I want to place these so I know where I'm going to stamp this piece here behind it. So I'm going to ink this up, kind of move this, kind of angle it so it's a little bit easier. And then we'll pick this up, and I'll stamp this over in this corner like so. and then we'll place that over. It's just a placeholder. And then we'll ink this up again. Okay, and then we're going to stamp over in this direction. And then our last one, we'll go over here. Now typically you would usually you would stamp this first so that way you didn't get it on your card base. But the other option you can do if you're worried about ink getting onto the card base, you can always take a post-it note and you can place that right there just in case. Then that way if you stamp over too far, then it's on your post-it note and not on your card base. So just a little tip. Okay, so then I'm going to take my happy birthday greeting, and since this I want to make sure that I line it up. Of course there's two sides to every piece of cardstock, so I had to flip it over and stamp it again. So I'm going to add some glue to the back of that, and then I'm going to bring in this piece of Melon Mambo cardstock, and then there's going to be just a little border that'll go around this die cut piece like so. Press that down. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. And we'll add 3 on there. We don't need 4. Okay, and then this will go right over here like so. Okay, now let's set this aside and we'll put our flowers together here. Okay, so these are pretty easy to line up. So just kind of take a quick peek. I think this goes this way. Yeah, so it'll fit perfectly on there, but you see that cardstock behind it. So for these, I'm going to put a little bit of glue, and I'm only going to do it on the middle part. I'm not going to add any onto the edges because I want to have that dimension that, you know, I can lift these up a little bit on the petals. So I'm just going to add a little bit just on this center part. And line it up like so. Just press down in the middle. Okay, and then we're going to add like 2 dimensionals to the back of each of these. I'll set that aside. And let's see. Where does this go? It goes that way. And then we got our last one here. Okay. Okay, so we're done with our glue. Flip this over. I'll add 2 more dimensionals to the back of this one. Okay, so now to assemble the rest of our card. So I will take off these backings. And we will add one right up here, like so. I want to be able to see that little sprig poke out from behind it. So just arranging these so I'll be able to see that. And I come off a little bit off of that um, basic white layer. But that's okay. Okay, and then we got this piece here, or this flower, and we'll place that right there. Now they're going to overlap a little bit, and that's okay. So then we can come in and we can just lift up the designer series paper layer that we have on top. So this just adds some dimension to the card. Actually, bring that up. Okay, and then for the center of my flowers, I'm going to bring in a new embellishment. Now, this I do not think is in the new annual catalog, but I think it is part of a whole suite that I think is online exclusive. So when our new annual catalog went live, we also had a bunch of online exclusive items go live as well. So with so much new stuff, it's hard to tell whether or not it was from the actual catalog or if it's online exclusive. So in this pack, there's these are called the Strawberry Slush and Pretty in Pink Gems. So the gems have like a little bit of gold glitter in it. So there's the Strawberry Slush, the Pretty in Pink, and then there is also the clear ones as well. So for these, I'm going to use the larger Strawberry Slush ones, and they're going to fit perfectly right into the center of these flowers. So there we go. There is our second card. So a really, really pretty birthday card. So there's our second card. All right, so let me kind of move this stuff out of the way and bring in our first card. So our first card, lots of the aqua on it, and we got that pop of that peach pie in the cardstock and also in our flower centers. So really nice, pretty card. And then our second one, we utilized the dies that go with this stamp set, and we created our three-dimensional blooms by die cutting the more detailed piece out of the designer series paper, and then adhere that to the Pretty in Pink cardstock. And then of course we use that embossing folder to emboss half of this card front layer. So there are the projects using the Shaded Summer Bundle. If you like the projects, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. That helps me in not only growing this channel, but it also helps in growing my Stampin' Up! Business as well. Now, one of the things about my Throwback Thursdays, I do get a lot of wonderful feedback from people that tell me that I have that stamp set, or maybe I have that bundle, or I have the suite, and they may have used it, but a long time has gone by. They still have it, and this gives them some inspiration to pull it out and play with it again. I will shamefully tell you that there's a lot of times whenever a catalog is about to retire, if there is, say, a stamp set or a bundle that is about to retire and I haven't gotten it yet, I will end up getting it before it's gone. However, then it kind of gets put away with everything. And then, of course, there's new stuff, and then I completely forget about it. So there's kind of like two little aspects to my Throwback Thursdays. It's not only using retired stash, which I have plenty of, it also gives me the opportunity to actually pull out those stamp sets and actually use them. So that one of the reasons why Throwback Thursday was definitely something that I wanted to do. So in the description of the video, there are a few links that are in there. So we currently have more last chance products that are out there. These are items that were retired out of the annual holiday and our recent January to April mini catalogs. There's also items in there that used to be in the clearance rack, and then also items that were part of online exclusive. So those were items that were not per se in a catalog, but some things that may have carried over that went there but now are retiring. So Stampin' Up, they update this last chance list every 2 months. So the link will take you directly to the online store where all of those last chance products are. Again, we do have a new annual catalog that is out. If you are not working with another demonstrator, meaning you're not ordering from them, and you are here in the United States and you would like a paper copy, my email is in the description. Just simply send me an email with your full name and mailing address, and I'd be more than happy to get one mailed out to you. Also, there is a starter kit special. So with a new catalog also came a new starter kit special. Typically, to get the starter kit, the cost of it now here in the United States is $99 plus tax. The shipping is free, and you would get to choose $125 in product. You would also get some business related type of items like a box of catalogs, and there's also a sample paper pumpkin so you can see what that's all about. But during this promotion, which ends on May 31st, so that's coming to a close here in just a couple of days, instead of choosing $125 in product, you get to choose $165 in product. Whatever we have in the online store or in the catalog, you can put that in your starter kit. Now, when you get the starter kit, you are a demonstrator. You do not have to do what I'm doing as far as building it as a business, holding classes or doing videos. You can simply be a demo to receive that instant 20% discount on your crafting supplies. So that's pretty cool. A couple of other perks with it. You get to see the new catalog before everybody else. You also get to pre-order products from that new catalog before it goes live to everybody. There's also some demonstrator only events that happen that some that are virtual, and then we also have one every year it's a big event that's an in-person event. So we have that starter kit special currently going on. That'll end on the 31st. If you have any questions whatsoever about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Also, there is a link in there for my newsletter. I do send out my newsletter typically once a month. It's usually by the first Tuesday of the month. I let you know what my video schedule is. So I do have Throwback Thursdays, which I pull out my retired stash. I also do a monthly Christmas card inspiration, typically on the first of the month. So I create 2 simple duplicatable Christmas cards. That gives you some inspiration if you want to create your Christmas cards throughout the year rather than waiting, till near the end of the year. And what I also do a paper pumpkin unboxing, in which when I get my paper pumpkin kit, I do a pre-recorded video in which I will create one of each of the projects so you kind of see how that all goes together. And then on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I go live right here in the studio on this YouTube channel. And of course, I use current product. And so let's see, this is Thursday. So the tomorrow I will be doing textured something. It's textured something. I'm looking right at it, but I'd have to go and pull it out and look it up. But I will be doing that tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hope that you can join us. And if you can't join us live, there's always the replay. But what I do at the end of my lives, I do a wheel of names in which I give away all 3 of the cards that I had made in that video. So hope that you can join us. We have a really wonderful bunch of ladies that are there, and everybody loves getting together on Friday night. So hope that you can join me for that. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. And wherever you may be, if you're dealing with weather, because there has been some, bad weather around the US anyway, stay safe, and everyone have a blessed one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.